So we are back to our Twitch channel, which has already almost 120 followers in just 3 days of live streaming, which is great. We're on to our fourth mentor session of the day, and I have three great mentors with us. People that are supporting us through the ecosystem, as well as people that we know a long time ago. I'd like the mentors to shortly introduce themselves, and then we will go to Alex. We'll hand him the floor to introduce his startup. Rita, please go ahead, ladies first.
Okay, thank you, Ram. Yes, I'm Rita and act as a non-executive director or board professional with some companies in Finland dealing with food and electrification and pace. I have also some angel investments from the past, some of those with the accelerator actually, and I've been member of the FIBAN Finnish Business Angels Network in Finland for 5 years, and with the Accelerator Frankfurt from the start. And prior to my new life into the boards and startups, I was working with 2 different American companies in different operational roles in the chemicals industry mainly. And nowadays I continue try to learn about new technologies, and blockchain is one of those, and I see that it has a lot of potential also beyond the finance area. So that's why I'm curious to be here today. That's all, Ram.
Excellent, thank you, Rita, and happy to introduce you to more of our startups. I know you're invested in some of our startups, and you're still happy with them, so that's a good thing always. Philip joining us. Philip, how are you doing? All good?
Great, thank you. After technical issues joining the conference now, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. Well, yeah, you mentioned Philip Kaiser. I'm with Helaba and Helaba Digital. I'm wearing 2 hats. On the one head is I'm heading the corporate development and digitalization department. We're taking care of strategy topics, corporate development in general, sustainability, of course, as well. Looking for new business opportunities. And my second head is I'm co-heading Helaba Digital, which is a subsidiary focusing on corporations with startups, but also investments in startups that are beneficial to any of our business models. And of course, blockchain is something that is really interesting us as a financial institution. But especially during the last couple of weeks, we are seeing more and more interest on, especially also on the central banking side for digital currencies. So I think the topics that are covered within your Wave number 7 is very, very interesting for us. So I'm really happy to be part of the mentoring group here. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip, and thank you for the support. Helaba Digital is one of the sponsors of making this program possible, but that's a small part. The biggest part is that Helaba has been open to the ecosystem here in Frankfurt. They've been meeting startups, and they're very welcoming in that sense, which is very important in the banking sector. So thank you very much. Michael Mizrahi from Jerusalem, how are you?
Great pleasure to be here. So I'm really honored to be a partner accelerator with Accelerator Frankfurt from the very start. It's very exciting to see the 7th cohort. Did you believe it?
Unbelievable. Go ahead.
I can't believe it. It's amazing. And I'm representing A2B Startup Accelerator in Jerusalem, coming from the capital of Startup Nation. We are running the accelerator within the Israeli College for the last 6 years, partnering not only with Accelerator Frankfurt, but with many other accelerators in the world. We are now building a chain in the Czech Republic, in Serbia, in Macedonia, in the United States. And I'm also representing a VC called Launch It Capital. We are investing in early stage startups. We even invested in one of the previous cohorts of Accelerator Frankfurt. and super excited to be here. I'm here to help you out, shape up and polish any material that you may have and get you investment ready.
Great. So yeah, thank you, three of you, for being here. Alex is in the morning in Brazil, which is right around the corner. But the great thing about doing things online is that it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Alex, who are you? Give us a good morning, first of all. I hope you had your morning coffee, and give us a short intro of who are you, and let's get down to business. Feel free to stop Alex, ask him questions, and so forth.
Hi everyone. So let me just close the door. Thanks for having me. And I'm Alex. So my name is Alex van der Sande, and I have been working on the blockchain space for about 5 years. I've been working on the Ethereum space even before it launched. I was part of the Ethereum Foundation during the launch. I joined the Ethereum Foundation in 2014, just 1 year after, just after they had the pre-sale. I was among the first employees there as a designer, working on user experience and focusing on I helped launch the first Ethereum wallet with an UI, the first Ethereum browser, the first Ethereum naming system. I really helped set a lot of like early standards in UI back then. And thanks to that, I've been also helped launch other projects, right? I've been helped to call to advise and talk with multiple projects during those years. And almost all of them had like the same common problems. And at some point I realized, hey, someone really needs to build one single library that helps those problems. And then I decided, hey, maybe that should be me. And that's how I got into Unilogin, and that's how I started. That's where Unilogin came from.
Before you dive deeper, Alex, for our viewers that don't know Ethereum, perhaps our mentors as well, but Ethereum is the leading blockchain at the moment for building apps on the blockchain. Market capitalization well over 40 billion. Please, Alex, correct me if I'm correct or not.
So the way I like to introduce this in a quick way for people is that most of our lives are digital. Everything is moving to the cloud, but the cloud doesn't belong to you. The cloud is someone else's computer. So if your identity, so your photos are already on the cloud, your friends are on the cloud, your communication is in the cloud. But in true, like cloud always means someone else's computer. And often it means a computer that belongs to a company that belongs to 2 or 3 people, right? And often to a company whose majority shareholders are 1 or 2 people, and they can just shut it down. And I don't want, and we are moving now, and I believe with blockchain, we are going to move to a world where now your money is going to be on the cloud. Your money is already digital. It's just going to be on the cloud. Your professionals are going to be on the cloud. Your identity is going to be on the cloud. The things that you're permitted to do or not permitted to do, the things that you own, everything is going to be somewhere on the cloud. And whose cloud is going to be, right? Is it going to be Amazon? Is it everything going to be at Google's? Or worse, is it going to be in some computer in China? Would you trust that? Is that where we want our future to be? That someone will have the ability to push one button and lock hundreds of millions of people out of their basic identity and friends and business and livelihood. And so that's really where the blockchain is coming from, right? Why that's what we are trying to solve in this blockchain space. And Ethereum is basically, so blockchain is just a cloud that doesn't belong to a single person. It's a cloud that is not controlled by any one person. It's a cloud that is controlled by everyone and nobody who is running that network. It's an open source cloud in a way. And Ethereum is this idea that, so Bitcoin was the big first blockchain, and it's the purpose of the blockchain of Bitcoin is just for you to trade Bitcoins, and Ethereum allows you to build basically any app on top of it. Apps that allow you to give, as I say, give you identity, access to financial services, access to cars, access to dispute resolution, access to communication with friends, and basically any app that you can develop and you can code, you can put it on the Ethereum blockchain. And Ethereum, everything I'm going to say, so everything we've built is about Ethereum blockchain. But another interesting thing is that Ethereum is also being, because it's open source, a lot of Ethereum competitors are in fact replicating the same Ethereum virtual machine. So everything I'm talking about building on Unilogin can be perfectly reproduced to whatever is the next Ethereum or whatever is the next other blockchain. So it's really like blockchain agnostic, right? So I'm not talking about just one single platform. I'm just talking about like the blockchain as a whole. And here's the thing. Here's the problem with the blockchain UI is that I don't think you should be thinking about those apps as blockchain apps, right? I don't think you should be thinking about, oh, are you a blockchain user? Are you a blockchain app user? Is this a blockchain app or not? Ideally, this should be just an internet app. This should be just an app on your phone that gives you access to dispute resolution, that gives you access to funds and everything that it does. But right now it doesn't. Right now it's very complicated. And our goal at Unilogin is really how can we get the next 5 billion people to start using blockchain apps without even realizing they are. So what are the problems in the blockchain space? Good user experience. It's terrible user experience. And it's hard to use, it's hard to develop for. Like you can build good solutions, but if you do build good solutions, you basically have to have an app that is only dedicated at being a good wallet. Users need to think about having a single key and they need to back up that key. And if they lose their key, they lose access to their identity and there's no forgot your password method to recover it. If you give your key to too many people, like you will also lose access to your funds and there's no recovery to that. Whenever you're using any blockchain app, you sort of have to have Ether, which is the native currency in the blockchain, in the Ethereum blockchain, which is weird, which is like saying, hey, welcome to this, like you can have dollars in your account, but if you don't have, let's say, the Chinese yuan in your account, you can't pay, like all bank fees are paid in Chinese yuan. You don't want to have Chinese yuan, you don't care about having Chinese yuan, but all bank fees are paid in those, so you need to have those just for bank fees. That's weird, right? Finally, most addresses in the blockchain are just hex addresses. And when you send it to other people, if you say, look, I need this Chinese yuan for, like, can you send it to me? And I can't tell you, just send it to Alex on a Sunday. I need to give you a long, very weird code that I need to remember, and I need to copy paste, and I need to send to other people in order to have that. And that is sort of like the main problem we are trying to solve. And how do you try to solve that, right? So, I mean, you can interrupt me at any time, so I'm gonna just keep going. So here are the things that we try to solve that, right? The first thing, so first of all, like I want to jump a little bit to the unique value proposition, is that we want to have an easy onboarding, yet we want it to be decentralized and non-custodial. That's actually very important. It's sort of easy to build a solution that makes you the next Amazon, the next Google, the next Facebook of blockchain, meaning that you are in control of everything. You are still in control of the apps. It's a little bit harder to make it in a way that the user is in control of their own keys, but that's what we want to do. So first of all, we want to give the only thing I want the user to remember is their username. I want every user to have a username. So here's an example of a hex Ethereum address, right? Let's say you want to send Ethereum to Alex. I want you to send to 0x74C31F, and that's going to go for like 40 characters. That's impossible. Instead, I want to be able to tell you, hey, just send it to alexvandesande dot something, and we give every user a username that is very similar to an email address. So it's alex.unilogin.if, right, or something very similar to that. That's an open. We didn't create those usernames. We don't control those usernames. This is an open standard in the Ethereum ecospace and in many blockchain spaces. And once you give that username to the user, he has full control of it. He can change it. He can add more. It's something that he owns. So the first thing we want to do is identify every user by username. Once you can identify them with a username, all I need to ask you is, hey, what's your username? And I can tell you if you're a new user or not. And then if you're a new user, I want to give you a smart account, a smart multi-sig account. What does a smart multi-sig account means? Remember when I said that traditionally in the blockchain, you have a single key, and if you lose that key, you lose everything. If you give that key to too many people, you lose everything. So instead of that,
Alex, I want to stop you exactly on that single key usage before we go to the next. Has any of the mentors you been on Ethereum? Has Ethereum? Used Ethereum? Just nod.
No.
No. Okay, so that's a little bit of if you haven't, then I can understand that it can be a bit tricky to understand what Unilogin aims to do. The main thing is that it's just or maybe the main reason you haven't been or haven't engaged with Ethereum blockchain or with any blockchain for that matter is because it's not straightforward and easy. It's not as easy as going to your app store and downloading and putting your username and email. And I think that's the biggest barrier for mass adoption.
Dan, I'm sorry, Ram, sorry. I wanna maybe note something here. You just described the problem in one sentence. Very good, Ram, because I'm not familiar with the system of blockchain, but I'm not familiar with endoscopia systems as well. But people who can explain in a very short manner the real problem in one sentence from the point of view of the client or of the user, and the same goes with the solution. One sentence about the solution, very focused on the solution, and then I can actually relate and if needed, you can also, this is of course a business model canvas, but you can also show me the interface. It's not a problem to show me the interface and tell me,
I would love to, Ram, can I skip them business model canvas and I can just go to the demo and the presentation?
Alex, this is
I'm
your
not a big
session.
fan of the business model canvas, to be honest.
This is your session, so you can do anything you want. So Alex is you can do it in the meantime, but Alex is very deep into the blockchain, and he's selling his mostly his solution to developers. So this is why he explains it in the way he explains it. But Michael said a very important thing, because Alex is also here in the accelerator because they are raising and they are seeking funding. And not every investor, such as you, Michael, or Rita there, or even Philip, can understand that language. And if an investor doesn't understand what he invests in, it can be a big problem. So it's a big learning for everyone at the end of the day. Alex is in the accelerator for one big reason, and it's because his company has the potential of being the next Google, the next Amazon, the next Facebook of the Ethereum blockchain. So there is huge potential there. So if Alex try to show them what it is and maybe simplify the language. On Monday, you will have a technical meeting, don't worry.
Maybe just because we're coming across all these topics, one thing, and I absolutely agree what Michael just mentioned before, one sentence, two sentences is always better than 50 minutes. Maybe you could also highlight differences between Ethereum and other blockchain solution providers. Why are you focused, or why is this problem linked to Ethereum and not to one of the other providers? That would also be interesting on a high level, please, because I'm not a technical guy as well. I'm not a developer.
Okay, so let's start there, right? So we are a blockchain company. We're focusing on giving solutions to developers of blockchain apps, and we are not tied to Ethereum. We don't need to be tied to Ethereum. We are not married to Ethereum. It's just that Ethereum currently is the biggest platform that allows you to build blockchain apps, and all the competitors are also compatible in the tech side, right? In the technological stack. So any competitor, if you build anything for Ethereum right now, that can also work for the competitors of Ethereum. So that's the short version. We are not focused on only giving solutions to the Ethereum space.
Anyway, I would just add that if you look at investments in startup companies in the blockchain space, you will see that like the big players like A16Z, Sequoia, all of them like mostly focus on Ethereum projects or projects that build on top of Ethereum, and even like big corporates like Microsoft, EY, JP Morgan are building on the Ethereum blockchain itself. So given the current situation, it's a good strategy to attack basically Ethereum developers with the product, I would say.
Yeah, I think you can think of like there is this new whole computing platform out there, which is blockchain, which is basically like a cloud but decentralized. It's a cloud, but it's not controlled by a single person. And Ethereum is really an operating system being built on that, just like Linux or Unix. And the idea is that even if Ethereum isn't like the one that succeeds, probably the ones that succeed will be a version or a flavor of something very similar to Ethereum. So that's what we want. And what we really are what we're really focusing on is how can we get blockchain apps to be just apps, right? So that you don't need to think about this as, you as an end user don't need to worry about Ethereum or blockchain or whatever is the technical details of the platform itself. Okay, so and here's how this current scenario works, right? If you are a blockchain, if you download an app for a blockchain, right? You probably gonna if you're a blockchain app developers, you lose 90% of your users in the first 5 minutes of your app, right? Once that your user shows interest in your app, like usually what you do is you have to ask them to download a Chrome extension or download an app. And even if they do, then they need to do the following steps. Like they usually need to write down a 12-word seed phrase before they use anything that they need to save somewhere. Then they need to go to an exchange and buy and sign up on that exchange and give their documentation to the exchange and buy and wait 3 days. And all of those steps are really complicated, and that's where you lose 90% of your users. And that is the single thing we want to solve. We want to give a solution for app developers that will allow your users to use your app directly from the browser with asking almost nothing from the user itself. And the way this thing looks is a little bit like this, right? So let's say this is a blockchain app. This is not the Unilogin app. This is just a random blockchain app. And you want to connect to it. And what's going to happen is that all I'm going to ask you is your username, right? You're going to type your username and say, look, I'm Jane Doe. And from that username, I can already detect, okay, that's a new username. That's something that doesn't exist. I'm going to create a new login for you. and you can use it. You can use credit cards, or if you have crypto, you can just already like send money to it. And you can go pay in Apple Pay, and the minute that I detect that like that the money is coming in, I'm gonna create for you a smart account, which is something that will enable you to log in into your app from multiple places without having to share a lot of information. And now that's already the kickback flow. That's not even us. We could probably even skip that screen if you want, depending on the type of developer you are. And the interesting thing is that I never ask you a password. I never ask you to save like a private key. So how can I send? So you can already execute transactions from your browser without having to download anything extra. So how can I log in into another app without having a password? And that's the interesting part. Let's say you have now your phone, and now I'm gonna like load an app in your phone. And in that phone, all we're gonna do again is you're gonna type the same username you have. Again, the only thing I want you to remember about your own username, your own account, is the username you have. So you type the username, and now I can detect, oh, Jane Doe exists. So you probably want to connect to it. And when you want to connect to it, you're gonna receive a notification on your device. And that notification is gonna just say, hey, you have someone trying to log in into you. Is that you? Can you just confirm that's you by confirming this little code that I'm gonna send you? And as soon as you do that, now you are logged in into your browser and an iPhone. And now you're using an account that you're sharing your funds from either of those. And the interesting thing is that, so let's say you have your laptop, you have your most people have a laptop, a phone, and maybe some people have iPad and things like a laptop, an iPad and things like that. In each one of those, you have multiple apps. The way we do this thing is that every single one of those, for every app in each device, we give you a different session key in a way. And as long as you don't lose the most of them, so if you have your laptop on your phone, you lost your phone, you can still have access to your keys via your laptop, right? And even if you lose both of them, we can offer you a recovery code. But the idea is that all you need to do is have access to another second device you have, and that's how you can use any blockchain app from just any browser you want. And that's a short demo on how Unilogin looks.
Did you guys get it? You want to ask some clarified questions?
That's just a two-factor authentication?
No, it is not. So we are providing, so here's the interesting thing about two-factor authentication, right? Two-factor authentication is a method that allows you to prove to someone that you are, you cannot do a real two-factor authentication without having a centralized authority. Because what are you doing using two-factor authentication is that I am proving to you that I am me, and then you are allowing me to get in, right? Instead, what we do here is a multi-sig. So it looks similar to two-factor, but it is decentralized because every one of those keys, every one of those devices. So you can basically you can either confirm your device. You can start from your phone and confirm that on your browser, or you can start from your browser and confirm that on your phone. So that's how it's different from two factors, and you don't actually need to require a cloud, someone having a cloud somewhere that is gonna permit you to have access to it. That's the difference. So, but it is like the experience of two-factor authentication, but improved and in a way that is non-custodial.
So, if say I want to log into my Lufthansa account on my computer, I would just need my username with your solution, and then
Yes,
on my mobile phone, I might get a message. Are you trying to log on your computer to your Lufthansa app? And then on my phone, I need to just, yes, it's me. Or do like you did the little signatures with the little animals there. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
And why it's so important is because obviously on Ethereum, you're dealing with your identity, you're dealing with crypto assets, with money. So makes it 10 times more important to have it secure. Go ahead.
So, one question, because I'm not sure if I'm getting it right, but your solution is limited to blockchain-based apps, right? Because Lufthansa app is, as far as I know, not blockchain-based. So it was just an example, right?
Yeah.
Or would your solution also work for logging in just any ordinary app where login is required?
No, it's not for ordinary logins. It's for blockchain apps.
Right.
Like
good.
In a theoretical future where Lufthansa is using a blockchain for some reason, that could be like that's the description.
Okay, so I think Ram mentioned also a very interesting topic that, of course, me as a guy working for a bank is always pain in the special part of the body. When it comes to payments and all these things, do you have kind of an authentication process or feature when I'm first time using your Unilogin service, or is it a completely anonymous process?
So let me see if you're. So I think you're gonna ask. You're asking me how you're doing the first time payment. Is that right? So
or the first time, the first usage of your. So I'm going to your website and saying, okay, I would like to use your feature in the future. So how do I get my first time experience with?
Yeah, exactly. So we the first payment, like the connection to credit cards and connection to banks, we do via third parties that are the on-ramping providers, and they are the ones who do QIC and deal with local regulations depending on the country, right? So basically, what we do is that we ask you like which country you're coming from, and then we offer you a choice of on-ramping providers, and then like from things, and those on-ramping providers will allow you to pay directly from your bank or your credit card or Apple Pay and things like that.
Okay, so the payment via the credit card is the authorized or authenticated payment, and then everything beyond that is out of your hands, to say it like that.
Yes, it is. Okay. Like
exactly.
The first time, like via the credit card, it's going to be via an authorized an app. They're going to have all the information and comply to all the regulations. But once the payment comes, we are not actually holding those money, those funds. We are simply providing tools that allows the user to control their own keys.
Okay.
To control their own funds and identity and things like that.
Is the solution, again, only relates to the logging in and out of the various applications, and it is a tool for developers to embed it into their solutions?
It is a tool for developers to embed in their apps that will allow them to manage the users to manage their identity, manage their funds, manage people new incoming requests that are accepted, and even like more advanced features, like you'll be able to set limits for each app, saying things like, oh look, this app can only spend up to $100 per month in this particular token, and if you need more than that, then you are going to require to have a second signature, and that second signature is like we do confirmation on the signatures. We keep track on who needs confirmation. We send the notifications, and that's what we are, and that is sort of all the complete suite of the services that we are providing to developers. So it's not just the logging in, it's really a lot of the management of identity, management of your identity, the security of your funds and identity, and the confirming transactions, extra transactions, and things like that. So that step where you get a notification and confirm something, that's not going to happen only the first time you log in. That's going to happen often when let's say someone wants to do a transaction that requires further privileges, and then we're going to send a notification for them.
Alex, can you put back the business canvas?
Yes.
Let's look at it a bit more from an investor's point of view, and why should an investor invest in such a thing? What's the attractiveness? So you've talked a bit about your target consumers. So who are you targeting? And basically that's why it's very technical. If you go to the right hand side, you will see the target audience. Maybe talk about how what gives you access to reach this audience, what sort of channels, and then what sort of key KPIs you can put in place to see that you are actually making progress, and then talk how are you making money.
Okay, perfect. So really, one of the things that put us in a unique position is that because we've been on the space for so long, we have great relationships with all the key players in the ecosystem, and it's quite easy to get to them for us. We meet them in conferences, like in a world that still has conferences, of course, and we have access to them in most social media. That's something that almost every one of the key players or people that I can contact directly in Twitter, like that, I follow them, they follow me, and those. So that's how we reach most of our customers. We have we have currently 3 apps that are just released that are using our tech, that just started using it last week, and we have over 100 people on the wait list that we are slowly onboarding and trying to bring them. And our customer segment is really blockchain app developers, people who are building those blockchain apps, but also institutions that want to leverage the blockchain potential in things internally, but are a little bit afraid that they don't want to be the ones in control of the users' funds, but they want to give the users a good user experience.
Can you give us a number? How many apps are being developed on Ethereum? Do you know?
I can check very quickly. Consensus released a good report.
There are hundreds of apps being developed in Ethereum, and they are, so yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that number from out of my head.
Go ahead, Leon.
An interesting thing that's happening on Ethereum is that it seems that the development pace is sort of independent of the price. The price really peaked in 2017 and has been and went downhill in 2018 and then started picking pace again in 2019. But the interesting thing is that during all that sort of bear market, the development just kept growing and growing and growing, and we've been seeing more and more apps being developed on the blockchain. And Solidity, which is the coding language, is still one of the fastest growing programming languages in the past few years. So the interesting thing about this market, it's sort of price independent. The price goes up, the price goes down, but development and clients and funds or people are still funding and building stuff on it. And the way we plan to make, and that's why the way we plan to make money is from that. It's from the developers themselves. We solve that problem for them by giving them users, and we charge them for premium services. Things like, hey, having a custom domain, the ability of allowing your users to have free transactions, to have subsidized transactions, to have transactions that are paid by subscription or by credit card, or so maybe your user is just paying a subscription to your service on a credit card, and then has just like and that's and then you provide them the service. And more importantly, like we can provide a completely white label solution, in the sense that like your everything happens in the context of your developer of that particular app. At no point they're going to the Unilogin website or even like thinking that they are creating a Unilogin account. They are just creating an account on that particular app that you happen to be compatible with others, and that's one big part. That we can offer a complete like brand-free experience that everything feels native to that particular app.
And speaking of apps, I just got the numbers. So as of January 2020, there are 3,300 decentralized apps on Ethereum, 5,200 DApp smart contracts that are actively being utilized. Like, I mean, 100 million DAI of like total decentralized stable coins in circulation, like a totally new financial economy, more than 1 billion at one point in February in these finance applications on Ethereum. It's really getting traction and adoption.
Yeah, so, Rita, please.
Yeah, just a clarification. I've been listening of this interesting discussion. So when you sell it to the developers, who do they sell it to then? How is the chain?
So developers are building specific apps, right? What those apps are often like those are finance apps. They allow you to lend, to like get loans that are like with fees that are completely different outside the traditional market. It allows them to have to put on collateral. It allows you to have gains, right? So it really depends on what sort of like business. Like developers have all like very different business models, right? They sell a service to the user, which is and then we are providing a part of that solution. They're not necessarily selling something on the blockchain. They are using the blockchain as a method to get to whatever app they want to.
Mm-hmm. But let me ask it a little bit differently. So you started the discussion from explaining how the cloud is basically controlled by very few players, and this one offers the decentralized approach to everybody. So if we think of that, who would really be interested in this decentralized besides you and me and banks? I'm thinking of countries. I mean, Germany has been for a long time asking the question, what could be the alternative to cloud? So is there a different, is there potentially a different approach to this, to sort of go through the regulatory part? I don't know. I'm just thinking.
So, one of the things that has been changing in the global scenario, like on the cloud things, is that having users' data is increasingly becoming less something that is a value, but less an asset and more a liability, right? Like everyone used to think of user data as this asset. It's the new oil. It's the thing that you want to mine. It's the thing that you want to have as much as possible. But it's increasingly becoming actually a liability, and that's partly thanks to new European regulations that are being passed elsewhere, which provides you that which tells apps that they should not be storing private data, and it's also thanks to like just the fear of users of the users want more privacy, and they don't want to have like God knows who has access to that. And also So the more you control your users, the more you are subject to regulation. And also, like just KYC is a great example. If you are in control of your users' funds, if you're in control of your users' properties, then you are subject to you are subject to banking regulations. You are subject to money transmitting licenses. You need to keep track of like what every user is and what every user does. I need to be able to prevent, like block users and kick users out and take control back of their funds. If instead you provide them with a service and you do not control their funds, you just provide service. Let's say you want to offer lending rates, right? If you're, let's say, Compound, which is one of the biggest apps on the blockchain right now, it's just a lending app. You can, if you have Ether, you can put the Ether and get a loan on dollars. If you have dollars, you can lend it back to them, and they're gonna pay you an interest on that. And because they don't keep any information on the user, that means that they don't need to be subjected to all the banking regulations, right? So yeah. That's why we believe that data is becoming it's more and more a liability, and that's why a lot of apps are interested in migrating or building directly on the blockchain.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, look, we have just a couple of minutes. I would like to throw in something extra rather than just questions, but perhaps Alex, I don't know if you have it already, but maybe we can do this together throughout the coming weeks, is really build the financial model of the revenue streams. We have now a market, as Leon said, of over 3,000 apps. Personally, I don't think it's huge yet. If you want to have 10% of the market, it means basically 300 apps. So is it really, so at the end of the day, let's build a financial model to see the potential of this becoming a unicorn and to show it to investors. Am I right, guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That would have been my next question.
So part of that, our assumption, and the reason that we are on the blockchain space, is that we believe that it's not about, like, we are not in the cryptocurrency gambling space. We are in the blockchain space. And what I mean by that is that we are not just betting on Bitcoin or whatever. Otherwise, I wouldn't need to build a business. What I'm betting is that the technology that we are building, the technology that powers blockchains, will be adopted and will be used and will be transparent, will be as used as, let's say, databases, right? Will be as boring as databases. And that will power apps that will reach 7 billion people, right? We believe that the next Facebooks and the next Googles and the next Amazons will be building stuff on blockchains. And that's why we want to offer solutions to those apps.
I'm 100% with you, Alex. I am a big believer in this. And I hope we can look back at this session, for example, in 2027 and show that our belief did come right. It is becoming mainstream, and more and more institutions are going to move onto the blockchain in one way or another. With that, is there any final things you'd like to say, to ask?
This is not an endorsement for investment, but it might also be a good point of time to buy some Ether if you check out the the situation and the price of the Corona crisis. Not too stupid.
Guys, I want to say that you sound super enthusiastic about the idea. It seems that you are really into it and you know a lot about it, both Alex and Leon. And I think this fantastic tools that makes a lot of sense and order in your thoughts, that is called the business model canvas. in order to help you raise money, it should be looking, maybe you should shift or polish it a little bit. A problem should be very, very clear to somebody who doesn't understand a thing about it. Alongside the solution, same thing, one sentence, what are you doing? This is a good practice for you guys because you are into it. You know the material very well. You are professional in your field and we can feel it. But in order for everybody to understand, maybe you should sit down and talk about only the problem, the 10 words that describes the problem. Each and every one of you without showing it to anyone else. If you have more guys on the team, do the same thing. And then go over it and see what kind of words repeated in each and every one of you. And then maybe focus on one message that is the problem in one sentence. It is horrible to authorize a user to use a blockchain tool. Solution, super simple, two authentication-like software or system for developers. Something simple and small and very precise. Because as I look at your business model canvas, some of the things there are tools are not the problem. In fact, a good UX is a solution, is not a problem. Or all the things that I see that you wrote there should be more focused towards explaining us exactly what is it that you are doing.
Okay. Obviously, the accelerator program is a process. Everything you say, we've been writing it down. If you have comments, and please do give us your feedback per email to Maria and I. This is just the fourth day. Basically, it's the third day of mentoring sessions. Alex still has one more mentoring session to go through. And then in the next 3 weeks, we are doing precisely that. So there is a digital marketing workshop, which really will do a brainstorming on focusing on this one key message. We will work also on the financials, just so we can present it well to VCs and take it from there. Guys, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Please just stay on the Zoom call. The next startup will come. Go stretch, have a coffee. I'll call you once we're ready to start. Alex, thank you so much for your time. And
thank you. Thanks,
soon.
Rita. Thanks, Philip. Thanks, Michael, for
Alex.
your
All the best.
comments. Bye-bye.